Hey friends, happy Wednesday and welcome into another live edition of Betting Weekly Fast Break. I'm Sara Civian, joined by professional handicapper Doug Kezirian. Doug, the NFL and college football are underway. We've got your dog Arthur out here laying down bets, and there's only 2 more days of regular season WNBA play until we gear up for the postseason. How you feeling this week?
Feeling all right. I'm a little disappointed that the Mercury decided to punt on the fourth quarter last night because that may have prevented me from a perfect show yesterday. Really frustrated in that regard, but nonetheless, love this time of year. Love the WNBA, as you very well know, and share that affinity. But it is nice that we have all these other sports going on because odds makers are spread thin. We can pick our spots. And also, it's just fun as a sports fan to have all this going on and all these options on the betting menu.
And hey, that Liberty under, that hit with flying colors, so we got that.
It helped. It helped, but I was pretty annoyed with with Mercury last night because they did have something to play for
Mhm.
technically, but just nonsense in my eyes.
They had the lead for a significant portion of the game. Then the Sparks won, and it didn't matter because the Storm had won
Right.
by 1 point. It's just the drama.
It was all at the same time, right? It was all like, you can scoreboard watch, so to speak.
And I was, and we will be scoreboard watching for 2 more days. We've still got a few more WNBA games to discuss and likely place some unders on. But the 8 playoff teams are officially locked in after a wild Tuesday night. So, as we said before, the Sparks needed a win to stay alive, and they got one in an 88-83 comeback against the Mercury. But Seattle's Erica Wheeler scored with 18.5 seconds left to lead the Storm to a 1 point win over the Valkyries to secure that 8 seed, or maybe not 8 seed in the future, but for now. As dramatic as it all went down, is this pretty much the playoff field you expected us to wind up with?
It's what I expected about a few weeks ago, right? The Sparks were certainly on the outside looking in. They're a farce of a team. I wish I could had a couple more weeks in the regular season where I could bet against them because they just get outclassed. And they started to get outclassed in the second half yesterday and we're down six. And it was a typical script because last week similar things happened with the Dream. Tight first half, and then they get blown out. This team doesn't play any defense. They have a lot of moving parts on offense, and maybe they just need more time. Like Cameron Brink needs more time to gel physically as she comes back from that injury. And just some of the other pieces, like Alamon's okay, but for the most part, they were outside looking in. And the Valkyries, give them all the credit in the world, man. They hung on, incredible season. Their win total was 8.5. They got over 20 wins. I think she should be unanimous coach of the year. Natalie Nakase has done a wonderful job because I wonder if I should probably look this up, but if she was also instrumental in who they picked, right? Because it was the draft. So she picked the right pieces and got them to play the right way and effectively, and just a remarkable coaching job. And they're going to be a tough out. Now, the Valkyries, for those who need to know this, once the playoffs begin, they're not going to have a home game in Valhalla in the first round. That I think there's a tennis tournament that is already earmarked for that date. So they have to play in a nearby arena. I think it's in San Jose. So not the typical Valhalla, but they'll still be a really tough team to beat. And the Liberty, right? Remember, Sarah, they started 11-0. This team was at some swagger, and now they don't even have home court in the first round of the playoffs. They're a joke in a lot of ways. I'm excited to bet against them as well.
Yeah, it's like the reverse aces. Now the aces are 15
Right.
straight and they are challenging. I mean, they took the odds situation to number two, where the Liberty have now fallen to number three with the championship odds, and for a good reason. And I don't even know if they deserve to be in that number three spot. So maybe we can check. Now there will be a few question marks when it comes to seeding. So we will revisit the championship odds and the rest of the playoff market when the time comes. But let's take a look at the championship odds. Now that the teams have been set, we've got the Lynx still a steady plus 100, the Aces plus 350, the Liberty plus 350 tied with the Aces, and then so on and so forth, down and down. Is there anything that jumps out to you here?
Well, I understand the Liberty falling. In fact, I'd have them lower, but again, a lot depends on just managing risk. In terms of the odds remaining, I'm not saying the Valkyries are going to win it all, but I wouldn't have 100 to 1. I really wouldn't because I think they can do a lot of damage in the playoffs. And I believe the finals, the WNBA finals is best of seven, but the other series are short. The first round's best of three, and it goes 1-1-1. So every team's guaranteed a home team. I mean, the Fever 250 to 1. I mean, I'm old enough to remember them beating the Minnesota Lynx in Minnesota without Caitlin Clark. Now, they've had more injuries since then. They don't have Sophie Cunningham. Odyssey Sims has been very effective. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't. But Kelsey Mitchell's a very, very good player, and so is Aaliyah Boston. So to have two All Stars and 250 to 1 odds, I'm stunned. Now, I know the bracket doesn't play out and do them any favors, but I think this is wide open. I've been saying all along, I don't think the Lynx are that dominant of a number 1 seed, and we saw them. Like, look, they've split the season series with Seattle. Of all teams, the Storm, who've been so unreliable all year, they're the ones that sort of have Minnesota's number. The Fever beat them as well for that, Commissioner's Cup championship, like I mentioned. So some of these odds feel a little out of whack. I think the Dream, like, I'll tell you what, if we were to draft a team with the current bracket, okay, we were just going to draft teams, no odds. I like the Liberty might be one of the last teams I take. I just think they're old. They play like with an arrogance, like they're going to flip the switch, and I don't think they can flip the switch. I think Jonquel Jones is lazy. I think Sabrina's too slow. I think Brianna Stewart's old. I think she's showing her age, or maybe she's not healthy. One or the other, right? She came back from injury recently. Maybe she just hasn't got her land legs back, but she does not look the same. She's had a career low in 3-point shooting percentage. Phoebish is okay, but she's not great at creating her own shot. The pieces are all really fun to watch. The highlight reel is great. I think Sabrina throws reckless passes. She's trying to be Caitlin Clark, and she's not. She's too slow on defense and offense. I can't wait to bet against this team. I think the league has caught up to them in terms of athleticism, and they just don't have that killer instinct. And I don't think it's going to be a switch they can flip. So they're like one of the last teams I think can win this thing. Storm as well, but they've just been unreliable all year, but they have talent. I just don't think they're going to do it. So there's no way I would bet the Storm at 40 to 1. I mean, would you rather have the Storm at 40 to 1 or the Fever at 250 to 1? That's just crazy to me, given all the liability from early in the season on the Fever. And again, Kelsey Mitchell's legit. She can go for 40 in a game. Now, unlikely, but she has that scoring ability or spurt ability, as Clark Kellogg would say. The Dream are probably the team that no one's talking about. I think they have a distinct home court advantage. I think Brittany Griner accepting her bench role has allowed Klesko to implement his kind of pace and space offense around Brianna Jones. I think the Dream at plus 900 with Alicia Gray, Ryan Howard back from injury relatively recently. I think they're going to be a really, really tough out. I think they're a really solid team.
Howard has been a beast. Their defense is sound. It's just kind of a well-oiled machine there. And I'm with you on the Liberty. I don't think Stewart, even before her injury, looked like her old self. And you wonder if it's age catching up to her, maybe the context around. I mean, Ionescu is also having a down season, just that whole situation. And you're trying to see now in the second half, it was a lot of these great teams were at the top of the league, were able to get the job done despite what was going around, despite if they had already clinched a playoff seed or not. It felt like when the Liberty clinched, they just did a sigh of relief, and it was just kind of like, all right, we got that ahead of us. Now we're good. It was something like that to me. I don't know if I loved that. The Dream definitely are a team that maybe I overlooked at the first half of the season, and then they kind of forced you to pay attention to them.
They do. And all these teams, I like how you phrase that, Sarah. All these teams are forcing you to pay attention. So I understand why the Lynx are the favorites. I get it. But in previous years, in recent memory, we've had the super teams where the Aces and Liberty met in the finals, and you can write that in pen at the beginning of the season. That's not the case. I mean, you literally have, I mean, I don't know, 5 teams that could win it all. And that's not something I've been able to say about the W in years. So it's really awesome. And I think this goes back, and we've talked about it all along, with the league being, I think year 28, there's a trickle down effect. So some of these girls before they became adults and everything saw the WNBA on TV, so they chose basketball as opposed to choosing soccer or another sport. And you're seeing the athleticism with these rookies, and they're 3-and-D players, right? The Sanaya Rivers of the world and some of these others. So the benches of these teams have some really nice pieces off the bench. The coaching took a giant step forward with the new hires, with Lynn Roberts, with Klesko, with Sun coach's name that's escaping me. I mean, the quality of coaching took a big step forward this year, and you're seeing that with the extra timeouts at the end where you can advance the ball, the ATOs and things like that. It's a really balanced league, and I do think the Lynx are the team to beat, but this is not the Minnesota Lynx Invitational, right? These playoffs, they're
Right.
going to have to earn it, and Courtney Williams can go cold. McBuckets may not make everything. Fee's fantastic, but there's a lot of role players around her. And this is not a dominant team. We'll see when the teams that have the big stars, like the Mercury, who have a big three, so to speak, we'll see if they can flip the switch and make things interesting come postseason.
Right. And I was thinking about the rest of the seeding scenarios, which we'll get into with the last two nights of the regular season. But when you look at the Valkyries, if they win, they keep the sixth seed. But if they lose, they drop to the eighth. And if you're the Storm and you're in the eighth, you play the Lynx in who are number one no matter what. And I mean, that might be the best matchup they have when you think about number two is the Aces or, oh God, I think the Aces have an opportunity to it's we will get into this later, but who if you could choose right now, would you rather play the Lynx or the Aces?
Good question.
Just don't know because I'm like, oh, they
Probably
could
the
just lock
Aces.
that in.
Oh, I'd rather play the Aces.
Yeah.
They've been great, but like some of these wins have been a little fool's gold. I actually think the most
Mm.
impressive win was in Atlanta. That was when they played their best, and I think that was the most difficult opponent. Home to Minnesota after they've already clinched the one seed, fine, nice win. But a lot of these are Chicago's and Washington's and some of these others. Beating the Liberty when they were shorthanded and beating Seattle at home. Look, running off this I mean, they were 500 team at 14 and 14. They've won 15 straight. So I don't want to diminish it. But from a matchup standpoint, winning at Phoenix was incredible. That was like a tie game with 2 minutes ago. So that could have gone either way. Winning in Atlanta was really impressive, in addition to winning at home against Atlanta. So those were two games that came down to the wire as well. Those were the most impressive ones. But beating Dallas and everything, I think the most important is how professional they were and not having a flat spot and dropping the ball. But I think Minnesota's has their number. I mean, look, they beat them by 53 in Vegas. And I would take Minnesota in a playoff game, so a game that mattered on a neutral or even in Vegas. I think the Lynx are the favorite. So I would rather face Vegas, but those are the two best teams. I understand why Vegas is the second favorite. That should be the case.
Makes a lot of sense there. And we will discuss that further as the seeding and the playoff field finalize. But we're also approaching the final opportunity to get an MVP bet in as the regular season wraps up again tomorrow. Asia Wilson's odds shot up to minus 2,000 at Bet Rivers as Nafisa Collier's continue to drop. At this point, they're plus 800. And we've all been going back and forth about this race itself on the show for weeks, and things have been changing. But I wanted to get your perspective from a betting standpoint about the way the odds have been trending. Why are we seeing such a drastic shift?
So it's interesting because when these markets move, it's usually because of the narrative or the tea leaves or social media or even talk shows. But not many people on the high profile platforms are discussing MVP odds, right? With the NFL starting and all these other bigger storylines. So it's not like First Take did something or there was a straw poll that suggested something that cause these odds to move. It's really odds makers playing a guessing game. Now, there are podcasts, there are shows like this, but we're not voters. But there are shows with voters that are talking that basically an odds maker says if the Aces get the two seed, he thinks Asia is going to win this easily. And it's just shocking to me. But as we discussed on yesterday's show, the fact that Fees missed a lot of games compared to Asia, and Minnesota's been okay without her. So the one seed versus two seed is not a big enough gap that Asia is number one in all these categories, just tons of categories. She leads the league, and she's perceived as the best player. And I like it that both players are good defensively too. If this was like James Harden style, and then another offensive defense matters. Um, but in this case, they're also up for defensive player of the year. These two, right? So I'm just stunned. I'm stunned that we had minus whatever it was, 1,000 the other way, and now we have minus 2,000 in Asia's favor. But if the Aces win this game, they will get the two seed. and thus she's probably going to win the MVP. But we don't know. There's not a million odds makers out there or anything like that, or sorry, odds makers, voters out there that are discussing this. This isn't on First Take today, right? Where you can control their, like, the voters can be sheep and like herd mentality. That's not really been the case. So I'm stunned, but I also think Asia's going to win. So maybe when there's only one game left, you'll see these drastic swings in the money lines.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, Hammond's comments, I don't know if you caught those last night, but I guess they were pretty passionate in making her case for Wilson. So maybe the
Sure.
odds makers in Vegas caught those too and said, all right, that's a good point. For me, it's Collier. The fact that she's missed more than 20% of the season, and that there has never been an MVP that has done that, even proportionally. I know the WNBA has more games than ever now, which is great, but even proportionally to the past, there has not been an MVP that has missed that many games. And I don't think it's fair to say, oh, because they went 7-2 without her, that means that she should be less
I
likely to
know.
do it. But still, I think what Wilson has done here has been pretty incredible. And it'll be interesting to see. I know we have these debates among voters in any league about, does MVP mean the best player in the league, or does it mean the best player on your team? Hammond was saying that means the best player in the league, and we all know that's Wilson. She said that, not me, but I was kind of with her. I love that she defended her player so hard and was going to absolute bat for her. So
I mean, I wish Cheryl Reeve would sort of, do some campaigning, if you will. But um, I said this last year with the Rookie of the Year debate. I just said, look, Angel Reese has had a great, very, very, very good season for a rookie. She just picked the wrong year to be a rookie, in the year that Caitlin Clark was all WNBA first team. Right? It's just unfortunate. So whoever doesn't win this award just picked the wrong year, right? Or just got it. So much of these awards and things like that is how you perform, but then it's also how, the competition, so to speak, and the randomness of that, because that's beyond your control other than head to head. I think the Lynx and what they did to earn the 1 seed and clinch it early is getting a little overlooked. But with that being said, why should the first month of the season count more than the last month of the season? And sometimes the last month counts too much. We certainly know the fickle market of the Heisman. The Heisman's just insane with how they just kick any favorite out going into the final weekend. And it's like, okay, all right, this guy's all of a sudden the Heisman because he played well championship weekend. But again, a lot, we don't know what these voters are thinking. Let's go back to last year's NFL MVP votes. Usually it's the, you know, first team quarterback or whatever it is, and that always holds true. But last year, Lamar Jackson got that, but then Josh Allen got the MVP. So we think we know, and Asia's obviously a worthy winner. And if she does win, then that's fair. It's not like it's a random one. But I don't think I've heard any voters say who they're voting for. I don't think I've heard anywhere they're leaning. This is all sort of conjecture, which makes Asia a, kind of a strange high favorite, right? But that's the overall sentiment, is just how dominant she's been. And obviously winning 15 in a row is going to help your case. Hey, by the way, Sarah, I think going into the season, the Aces win total was 30 and a half at close. So they're going to land 30 by winning their final 16 games.
yeah,
And
just
then
like I drew it up.
if you got the worst of the number, you're still going to go under despite finishing the year with a 16-game win streak.
That just that tells a story of the Aces season. That was such a wild finish, but never count them out, I guess, until Wilson's done going on a tear. And like you said, the improvements on the bench, the improvements with coaching all around this league as it's growing, it shows in a team like this that, you might count them out in the beginning, but they make a few adjustments and they're able to do that. They're able to kind of get it together, and it's a different story in the second half. But it's the story that we expected in the beginning before the bad start. So what figures? All right, we got one game on tonight's slate as the Dream try to clinch the number 2 seed with a win against the Sun. It could be a good time to give WNBA same game parlays a shot with the second chance parlay promotion. Opt in and get up to 50% of your bet back if your 3-leg WNBA same game parlay loses. See the BetRivers app for more details. So BetRivers has the Dream as heavy favorites, obviously, with a, last time I checked, 13.5 spread, 12.5 it has moved. and a 156.5 total points line. So here's the context. Both teams are playing their last game of the regular season. The Dream are playoff bound and looking to lock in the number 2 seed, and the Sun are at home. How does this whole situation here affect your handicap?
So I like the Dream here. I know it's on the road, and they played a tight game. I want to say last weekend, if I remember correctly, but relatively recently, there was a tie game in the fourth quarter, and then the Dream went on like a 20 to nothing run or something insane. And the Sun, who were up 6 at half, lost by 23 or something like that. The reason I like the Sun is because I do think they miss Bria Hartley. She's been out for the year with a knee injury. I think of meniscus, if I remember correctly. But then also Lacan is out, and she's fantastic. And she's a really big piece to what they do. Now, I still think the Connecticut Sun are very well coached. I still think they have some very formidable pieces in Tina Charles and Mabry, and even Sanaya Rivers, who's now inserted into the starting lineup with the absence of Hartley and Lacan. But and Anisha Morrow plays hard as well. I just think it's too much firepower for Atlanta. They have plenty to play for because they get the 2 seed if they win and Vegas loses. Now, Vegas, obviously, they've won 15 straight, but they're at LA, the Sparks. Sparks aren't good. They're a joke of a team. They just got eliminated. So I do think the Aces roll them. But there's a world where the Sparks get up for the game. Kelsey Plum maybe want to stick it to her old team. And the Sparks do have firepower. This isn't like going to face the Wings, who are like a shell of a team or anything like that, or the Mystics, who have 1 foot out the door in Cancun. So I think the Dream roll. I just don't think the Sun are very good. And this Atlanta team is very good. So as much as I've been betting on the Sun, I like the Dream here, but I've also been eating chalk lately. I laid the 7.5 yesterday. I laid some big number. So, yesterday it was all underdogs except for the Aces, right? The chalk held in Vegas, but everyone else, the underdogs, all barked. So I don't love it, but I like it enough to play it. So I'm on the Dream minus the 12.5.
I'm a fan of that. I think, like you said, they have something to play for, and that could go a long way for their playoff hopes, honestly, when it comes to that number 2 seed. I do not have an official play on tonight yet, but at the end of the episode, I might go in on you with you on that one. I think the Sun are kind of. I've been watching their past few games. It's I think the season's over. Like, I'll say that. I think they just kind of are going to regroup and come back next year, and there's nothing wrong
Oh,
with that.
if you look at I mean, I wouldn't play the first quarter. Let me put it this way. So they just lost by 25. Okay. They were down 2 at half and then got rolled in the third and fourth quarter. But I mean, their bench unit is really bad. So because I mentioned Hartley's out and then also Lacan, so they've had to put some of their bench pieces like Nisha Morrow into the starting lineup. So off the bench, they have Aaliyah Edwards, who I think is a giant bust, Haley Peters, Rhea Marshall, who's like okay, and then Toure, who's like okay. So it's really a giant drop off with that second unit. Although the second quarter they were tied with the Dream. I just think the Dream were sort of like going through the motions. I think the Dream can open up a can in this game. I think they should win this game by 20. I really do. I like Connecticut. Like I said, well coached. Tina Charles speaks for herself. Mabry's a gunner, but I think there's just too much firepower on this Atlanta team.
Yeah, agreed. They got something to play for too. So I'm trending towards that. But before I guess I decide, we can check out the final 4 games that are going to be tomorrow. The Valkyries face off against the Lynx in another seeding battle. If the Valks win, they maintain the number 6 seed. If they lose, they drop to the number 8 seed and they have to play the Lynx in the first round. So, do you have a read on that one at all?
Feels feels cheap, but the Lynx just lost by double digits to the Fever, so they got 1 foot towards the playoffs. I can't back the Lynx here. It feels short because the Lynx system is so impressive, and they plug and play right in a lot of ways. But I can't get involved because the Valkyries will come to play. They're well coached. Um, I just don't know what I'm going to get out of Minnesota, and I feel like some players are going to sit. Right, I have a feeling Courtney Williams or Mick Buckets. And it's worth mentioning. I don't know if this is factoring into Cheryl Reeves' thought process, and I haven't heard her speak specifically to this. But Nafisa Collier got hurt at the end of the third quarter of that game. They won by 53. Okay. So, like, maybe she's like, all right, let's not get anyone hurt. I made the mistake earlier this season. Maybe she's going to sit everyone. So there's a chance she just sits a bunch of players.
Great point all around, and that's why sometimes we lock these in kind of right before the game. I know what I do. I really want to make sure I know who is in the game, especially at this
Well,
point
yeah,
of
I
the
wish I
season.
knew that, Mercury were going to play everyone and try to get playing time for the end of the bench. So sometimes you're right, Sarah. Like, just don't force it because the books will get the two-way action. Like, Bet Rivers is going to get two-way action on these games, but we
Mhm.
don't have that luxury. We need to be careful with who we fire on.
Especially right before the playoffs when there are so many unexpected changes that you wouldn't expect in a lineup that you're trying to be normal and win the game. Like there are other things to consider. So that's a good point. That's why I've been a little hesitant this week, just kind of waiting a little bit on the playoffs. But I like where your head's at with tonight's game with the Dream and the Sun. So I think I will make that my official play, the spread. I think that's kind of all she wrote when it comes to the Sun. They gave it their all last time out and they still lost. They got it crushed in the end. So it's kind of where it's at right now. And the Dream have something to play for after all.
Yeah, I mean, we get this week 18, right? We'll have like the Kansas City Chiefs being like double digit underdogs. Like, what? Oh, well, Mahomes and yeah, that, yeah. So we got to be careful with some of these situations. Maybe
Yeah.
the Sun, maybe Connecticut sits a bunch of people. I know they're, you know, off-season bound, but why shouldn't they develop or at least know what they have at the end of the bench? Why shouldn't they play some of their reserves? You just don't know what's going to transpire in these games. And I mean, the Sparks are a good example, right? Do they want to play the role of spoiler tomorrow and maybe kind of treat that like their playoff game, even though they were just eliminated? Try to go end the Aces 15-game win streak, Kelsey Plum, stick it to her old team in a playful way? Or do they just want to be checked out and play some of their reserves?
It would be so Sparks to win that game, just kind of losing the plot. All right, it would be very Plum-esque too for that to happen after her old team won 15 straight and she can spoil that but still not make it to the playoffs. But
Yeah,
we'll
I
see.
mean, it is what it is, and we getting some active and people in the chat who are
There we
talking
go.
about a
Land.
lot of um, Henry VIII saying, "I will be betting my favorite mantle on the Dream minus 12 and a half." Thank you. Okay, careful there. I don't know. I want you to bet your favorite mantle, but A, just the letter A. He says he went 3-0 yesterday. Sky team total under Aces first half and Sparks plus the 8.5. So he took the points and got there. So that's always nice. 3-0 days are a very good thing, Sarah.
Mhm. Yeah, you gotta bank them sometimes because then you'll be in a slump like me looking to get back at it. But I
Well,
think
your August was unblemished, so you had to come back to earth at some point.
it'll humble you, right? And you gotta just keep kind of looking at what you did, looking at how you can improve for next time. So I think definitely the context with the Dream here, I feel good about that. And I am excited for some playoff betting. But is anything else tickling your fancy when it comes to Thursday's games?
Again, after getting burned with the mercury, and it happens. But you don't want to, it's like golf, right? You have a bad shot, you don't want to bring it and make it a second bad shot, right? You got to block it
Mhm.
out and move on to the next shot, which I will. But I got to find out, like for example, the mercury. I mean, they're only 3.5 point road favorites, but something's fishy there. So I need to look at what they have
Yeah.
going on. The only thing we do know is that the Aces will bring it on Thursday, assuming the Dream win tonight, right? If the Dream lose, then the Aces can rest
Mhm.
everyone. So that's part of the equation. So keep that in mind. Let's say the Dreamer lose, you can maybe grab a line, for tomorrow's game with the Sparks plus the points. But I mean, should Paige Beckers play? I guess it's the home finale for the Dallas crowd. Who knows what's going on with the Chicago Sky, right? Angel Reese's comments definitely leave a lot to be desired. They just got boat raced in Vegas. It's their home finale. Now, they're not murderers row, but the Liberty kind of want to get back on track, but they're annoying. Didn't cover yesterday. So they're laying 9. I would lean to the Liberty, but you just don't know what's going on with that team. And you really don't know what's going on with the Sky or whether Angel Reese is going to play. So, look, you can't lose what you don't put into the pot. And if there are too many moving parts, it's okay. And nowadays we can bet live. The Bet Rivers app has live lines everywhere. So maybe you just want to see who's starting, who's playing. The announcers will tell you, "Hey, we spoke to coach so and so before the game, and he or she said this." And that's really valuable because the algorithms don't really incorporate that. And we saw that in the live market last night with the Sparks game with the Mercury. Different books had much different odds in the second half because of the human element and adjusting the in-game wagering.
Yeah, and that can be some of your best opportunity to win when you're kind of locked in like that. So you never know when you'll get a bit or a nugget of information on the broadcast or something like that, and then kind of have your live bet out because I know that's where I've had some success as well. But all right, to wrap it up here, we are both locking in as our official best bet of the day. Dream minus 12.5.
Yeah. I like him here. I just think the Sun are so shorthanded. Without Bria Hartley running the offense and without Lacan, who's such a difference maker on both ends of the court, just excellent with steals. And then obviously she can get to the rack and score. I just think Atlanta can flip the switch. And look, they've been beating up on the Sun, so maybe they start slow. I wouldn't be shocked, but I think they're ready to win easily here. 12.5 feels low enough.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And if they are fighting for something, and it feels like maybe they're one of the teams at the end here that have just hung on and have not cared. Oh, we're already in. We're already X, Y, and Z. We have nothing to prove. Blah blah blah. I feel like they are extremely dangerous because they have that mentality of a chip on their shoulder for whatever reason, and I'm here for it. So I will have them finishing out their season strong.
We should. I mean, some of these teams should. I mean, even the teams that are not playoff bound should. So we'll see. But there is an element, a human element to this, where they're going to have one foot out the door. It's hard not to. We've all had senioritis. We've all not had our
Mhm.
best day every day at work. So there is a component to that. You have to be fair and understand that's part of the equation.
Yep, it's all at the end of the season, especially. We got to kind of stay alert for things like that and make sure that we factor that into our decisions. But that's all for today, folks. Doug, thank you so much for joining us. I wish your dog Arthur was here, but he will be here soon on this channel, and I cannot wait for that.
Somewhere
See
around
what
here.
we'll see what he picks for his next bet, and we'll all be waiting for that. Folks, thank you so much for joining us today. Be sure to like and subscribe if you want to see us pop up a little bit more. And thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.